Hey guys, so yesterday I got to ask a few questions to the Republican nominees for governor in the state of New Mexico. One of the candidates, Greg Zanetti, has proposed a blockchain based voting system to combat voter fraud in the state of New Mexico. Um, this should be a very concerning issue to you, especially knowing that the World Economic Forum and many very tyrannical individuals have been pushing for some time to force a digital ID onto the American people. So the questions that I got to ask him were um, very specific questions. I didn't ask him all of the questions that I wanted to. If you notice in the background, the individual that was running the show there, he was, telling me to stop. He was using the stop sign and trying to cut me off so I couldn't ask any more questions. But the questions that I got in were very important. So go ahead and listen to the questions that I asked him and the response that he gave to those questions. And stay tuned after that video for my commentary and my take. I got a question.
She'll bring a microphone to you.
Test. Mr. Zanetti, you proposed a blockchain-based voting system to combat the voter fraud. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What would it look like for the voter? Can you tell us, would we get an ID? Would it be temporary ID, permanent ID? How would that look like for the voter?
Okay, so what he's talking about here, does anybody here trust the election system? Right. I mean, well, why would you? Do you trust these machines? Right. So what are we going to do? I mean, without honest elections, we've really lost the republic, haven't we? All right, so what do? First thing we have to do is, thank goodness for Otero County. You guys are doing the audit right now? Yeah. And you took it on your own in a red county, and you still wanted to make sure that it was honest. Wow, good on you guys. And now the Democrats are screaming at you, right? You must be over the target. Don't back down, please. A lot of people around the state are looking at you and saying, way to go, you guys. And so, step one, we have to have a total audit, not just of the election coming up, but the past elections, and you have to punish the people who cheated. I think initially we're going to have to go to paper ballots. Get rid of the machines. Let's just do paper, keep it simple. But then blockchain, I think, is the longer-term solution. Blockchain is what they fix Bitcoin on. Okay.
What about voter ID also?
Absolutely. You must have voter ID. Yeah.
If voter ID is racist,
It's not racist.
No. Here's my question. If voter ID is racist, how are people of color allowed to fly domestic airlines since real IDs are required? So it can't be both sides. If IDs are required.
You're asking for non-hypocrisy out of the Democrats. Good luck with that. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Guys, gets off track just a little bit. Did you hear Pelosi yesterday, day before yesterday, say that government spending brings down the deficit? I mean, it's stunning. Anyway, blockchain. So it's called the distributed ledger. You don't have centralized control that things can be hacked. Thousands of computers verify the information. These computers can be all over the world. So what you get is verifiable data that's very difficult, if not impossible, to hack. And they have been able to hack wallets where things centralized. But the blockchain itself isn't just used for Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's used for supply, on how you can follow supply chains throughout the world to make sure that things go right. Can we use blockchain for voting, where you can only vote once? It's just to you. You have your own identifier, and yes, it follows you. And could we have secure elections, and could it start here in New Mexico, in a state this size? The answer is yes, and I'd love for us to be the first ones to do it.
Okay, I have another follow-up question, if I may. If the ID is issued to us and it is a permanent ID, How is that not, because with the blockchain system, as you said,
I know.
these types of things are verified by many computers worldwide. How is this not potentially a violation of the Fourth Amendment?
It
The
is.
right to, be
Yeah, how do
secure in
you
your
do the
person's
privacy
papers
and
and
all that?
effects.
No, I get it. Although, say this, we're there already, aren't we? The social security numbers and the surveillance state. Yes, I understand.
So you would say there would definitely be some hurdles that we need
Yes,
to.
there are hurdles we have to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And another follow-up question, if I may, is there a system or that you foresee that would already be ready for this, or is this just a theory that you're throwing out? Like, is there some software or technology that already exists that we could
Oh, no,
use?
it's already out there.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's out there. In fact, there was a proposal for it, except they wanted the U.S. Postal Service to run it. I don't know, that just seemed like a bad idea to me.
So would you say that this would be a privately owned software system that we would use, or a public thing? Publicly owned?
I always tip toward private, except I see what's going on here. And this merger of, like you said, big tech, big pharma, big media, and if you have this other big thing controlling all the voting, could it be corrupted?
Right.
At the same time, can government be corrupted? Yes. The answer to that is I don't know. I'm going to need smart guys like you to help me through it.
Thank you, sir.
Right, thanks.
So you heard his response. Now, the reason why I asked if these digital IDs, or rather these voter IDs, would be temporary or permanent is because if this system that he is proposing was strictly for voting, to vote, then it would not require that the ID be permanent. You could issue a temporary 24-hour voter ID to the individual. It could be issued by the electoral authority for a 24-hour time span and just be temporary. And so just the fact that he said at the end, if you listen to him, that the ID would follow you around, it is intended to be permanent. And he also brought up Social Security, which tells me that this voter ID would be a direct replacement, or most likely be a direct replacement for your Social Security number, which is something that is used for your bank account, for health, and all kinds of things. If you want to get a job, you got to have your Social Security number and all kinds of things like that. So just the fact that he answered the questions in the way that he did should be ringing alarms in everybody's ears right now. Okay, so that's the first thing. The other question I asked him was if a system like this already exists, or if it's just something that he's theorizing right now. But he obviously said that no, this system is already there. It's ready to be rolled out. So this obviously insinuates that he has a system in mind to be used for this. And the other question I asked was if this software would be publicly owned or privately owned. And he suggested that it would be privately owned. So not only does the system exist, but it is a privately owned system. Would you want your digital ID being in the hands of a multinational corporation? I certainly would not. But obviously, voter ID is not a controversial issue. So the question then is, do we have to go to blockchain? I would say no, absolutely not. There is a God-given way that we can identify each individual in the entire world. It's called a thumbprint, and we don't need to use sophisticated equipment to validate that. We already have the technology available right now. All we would need to do is integrate our thumbprint on the IDs that we already have, and perhaps maybe have a thumb scanner at every voting booth. But that wouldn't be very profitable for companies like Microsoft now, would it? If you haven't already seen Bill Gates' patent for a central bank digital currency that validates the user by biometric activity, go ahead and take a look at this right here. Do you want people like Bill Gates to have that much control over your life? Do you want to grant him the authority to mine your brainwave activity? This is not a conspiracy. It's in the document that I just showed you. I definitely wouldn't want anyone to have that kind of authority, especially not someone like Bill Gates. However, people like Greg Zanetti, who are encouraging fascism to rise in the Republican Party, do. If you live in New Mexico, or you know anyone that lives in New Mexico, I would strongly urge you on June 7th to vote against Greg Zanetti for the primary election. Quite personally, I think Jay Block is a good candidate. In my interaction with him after the session, he seemed like a very personable individual and intent to hear what I had to say. But whatever happens, as always, don't forget, help out your neighbors. Bye.